you remember the first time you saw Phantom Menace? I do. When I was 14, I went to the cinemas to see The Phantom Menace. I was so excited. New Star Wars. This was a dream come true. I remember walking out of the cinemas and I thought, that was great, wasn't it? It was definitely Star Wars. There were lightsabers and ships and war and Jedis, so it was definitely Star Wars. And Darth Maul was cool, and the lightsaber fights, so awesome. But was that Star Wars? I'm not sure what I just watched. What I do know for sure is that I didn't feel this way about any of the original trilogy. Watching the OT was something completely different. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Every emotional moment triggered a wave of empathy, like it was touching my soul. And by the end, I felt like a piece of the puzzle of life had been explained to me. I did not feel that way about The Phantom Menace. There's lots of different opinions on the prequels, from those that think it's pretty crap.
Star Wars The Phantom Menace was the most disappointing thing since my son,
to those that think it's pretty good.
The Star Wars prequels have pretty much always been some of the most criminally underrated movies of all time.
This film trilogy has a place in many people's hearts, as it is their first exposure to Star Wars. And Star Wars has something deeply compelling to it, no matter the film. But there is one thing we all agree on. The original trilogy has something else to it that the prequels don't. Something that elevates it beyond just a great sci-fi romp at the cinemas. And while the prequels were entertaining, they never reached the transcendent heights that the OT did. And this is just heartbreaking, because the prequels should have been as great, if not better, than the OT. So why is this the case? Where exactly did the films go wrong? What was it that we love about the original so much that was missing in the prequels? Well, there is one thing. Let's dig deeper. There's something very specific about the OT that separates it from the other films. And it's why we love Star Wars, but not the prequels. It's there in the OT, it's almost completely missing in the prequels, and it's totally non-existent in the new films. And that thing is... Hang on, have you watched part 1? If so, you already know what it is. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, you need to see that first so you know why the original trilogy was so damn good. Here's the link on the screen and in the description below. When you've watched that, join me back here for the recap. The thing missing from the prequels is the Force. But what the hell do I mean by the Force? There is literally the Force within the first few minutes of The Phantom Menace. This film has tons of the Force. Well, yes, if you consider the Force to be a magic-like ability, then this film is full of the Force. But is the Force just magic? In my first video, we explored how the Force is like a metaphor for religion. The tales of the original trilogy weren't just fun romps in space. They were parables about how to live your life. They had deeply important moral lessons aligned to the deepest held ideologies in our society. And an extraordinary amount of screen time was devoted to teaching Luke and the audience about how to be a good person in a religious-like manner. The OT was like the best Bible of all time. Not only was it cool as, it made you feel like you were part of something bigger and triggered a deep feeling in your soul about the interconnectedness of us all, just like religion does. So, the prequels were ripe for the next part of this journey. We learnt so much in the OT. We learnt that the Force is about faith, and that the more we have of it, the stronger we become. We learnt that a person has to make decisions about their actions, and this dictates whether they are going down the pathway of the light or the dark. We know that it comes from our feelings. We've seen it many times in the OT. What else? Great Force users can sense tremendous disturbances. You know, like that feeling you have when you come across great pain with someone and you can't help but feel empathy. A true Jedi only uses their power for defense. They never succumb to rage or revenge. These are the path of the dark side. There are ramifications for going down this path. We spent most of the Return of the Jedi with Luke, battling with this conundrum. Lastly, we learnt that you defeat evil with love, not with more evil. This was the most important message of the OT. So with all that, let's jump into the Phantom Menace and have a look at how it explores these deeply important themes and messages. You know what? I haven't seen this movie for a long time. I'm actually pretty excited about going through the prequels again, because I remember it being not that bad. George Lucas is still there at the helm. I'm sure the essence is still there. We open with the iconic opening starship shot. And listen to that masterful audio. Man, it's hard not to get excited about this feeling. More Star Wars. Maybe I was wrong about this whole analysis thing. Maybe the prequels are just as good in their own way. Damn. Straight off the bat, we see 2 Jedi. We've never seen anything like this before in the OT. 2 proper Jedis in a room ready to do business. This is going to be epic. And what about the Force? Well, damn. Straight off the bat, we're talking about Obi-Wan's distractions. Listen to this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I don't sense anything.
It's not about the mission, Master. It's something elsewhere. Elusive.
Don't center on your anxieties, Obi-Wan. Keep your concentration here and now where it belongs.
But Master Yoda said I should be mindful of the future.
But not at the expense of the moment. Be mindful of the living force, young Padawan.
Qui-Gon tells Obi-Wan not to focus on his anxieties and to remain in the moment. Be mindful of the present. So what should we be taking away from this scene? Obi-Wan is prone to being overwhelmed by anxiety, of overthinking things, of allowing negative thoughts to overtake him. Is this going to be the major lesson of this film? In fact, we have competing ideas. Yoda said to be mindful of his feelings, and Qui-Gon says not to do it at the expense of the moment. Who is right? Is this the moral lesson in the Force we're going to explore? Qui-Gon senses fear over the trade dispute.
I sense an unusual amount of fear for something as trivial as this trade dispute.
The ship explodes. Oh my god, 2 Jedis with lightsabers? Man, this is cool. And they have force push, and look at Qui-Gon burning through the blast doors with his lightsaber. Suck on this, droids. You are no match for Jedis. This isn't even a fair fight. I think I was totally wrong about this analysis. This film is baller. I think I can probably stop here. But I really want to see how Obi-Wan overcomes this deep anxiety and becomes more mindful of the Force. Let's see what happens next. So we're on the planet, and Amidala is having a discussion about the invasion force, and she wants to continue pushing for negotiation. She refuses to condone a course of action that leads to war.
I will not condone a course of action that will lead us to war.
Man, these themes are coming in quickly. We know from the OT that the light side of the Force deplores war and is only for defense. So it goes to say that negotiation is the preferred option in stalemates. I can't wait to see how we explore the challenge between negotiation and war. This is a tough conundrum. And when do we need to draw the line in the sand? Oh wait, the Trade Federation has already invaded. So does that mean we won't have any exploration of this theme around the Force? I'm sure that isn't going to stop the great storytelling. Anyway, listen to this music. Holy crap. Just when you thought John Williams had given all he had for the OT, he brings it again. Okay, so we meet Jar Jar. Qui-Gon is talking to Jar Jar as he follows, and Qui-Gon seems annoyed.
I love you.
You almost got us killed. Are you brainless?
I spec.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
Wow, burn. He calls Jar Jar an idiot. Jar Jar's been banned from his city and doesn't want to take them.
Can you take us there?
On second thought, no. Not really, no.
So, the two Jedis scare him with the fears of the invading troops. Obi-Wan gives Qui-Gon a little look, like they're doing a mind trick on him without using the Force. This is a really neat little touch. Qui-Gon says, "How much farther?" impatiently.
How much further?
Is this dialogue coming from the right character? First he's annoyed at Jar Jar, calls him an idiot, and then he's impatient? Shouldn't this be coming from the Padawan? Or maybe we're supposed to see Qui-Gon as this fake wise Jedi, but he's actually wrong. I mean, he basically goes against Yoda's instruction to Obi-Wan. I'm a bit confused, but I'm also intrigued, so let's keep watching. They end up mind-tricking the Gungan King for the speeder.
Speeder's on her way.
And then Qui-Gon asks to take Jar Jar with them. Okay. He tells Obi-Wan that Jar Jar might be useful in going through the planet core.
We need a navigator to get us through the planet's core. This Gungan may be of help.
Even though Jar Jar doesn't really know anything about the planet core, but okay. I guess Qui-Gon feels bad that they've forced Jar Jar to take them in the city and he's going to get thrown into prison. Anyway, we get in the ship and it turns out Jar Jar is useless. Surprise, surprise. They are lost, so Qui-Gon says this line.
Don't worry. The Force will guide us.
Okay. The Force is like a waypoint marker now from a video game? How does that work? I mean, it's nothing that we've heard before about the Force. Is this a new property of the Force? That it guides us along a line of predetermination?
The Force will guide us.
Or do we sense our feelings for what we want to happen? Yet, Obi-Wan doesn't really do that. He just looks forward as if there's a waypoint marker at the bottom of their screen. We know that strong Force users can see potential futures.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
But we also know that individuals must make choices. So how does that factor into this? At what point is Obi-Wan making decisions about where he is driving? Honestly, it seems more like a throwaway line than something important about the Force. And then also, how does this link into the main moral question of the Force surrounding Obi-Wan's anxiety? Wait a second, we're 20 minutes in and we haven't seen anything more about Obi-Wan's anxiety. Remember that? There's been numerous extremely tense moments, and Obi-Wan just keeps dropping quips.
Warm welcome.
Oh, don't worry. This hasn't been our day for warm welcomes.
I guess he just listened to Qui-Gon that one time and he's a completely changed person. Is this still the moral lesson? Let me put a maybe on this one. I'm sure it'll come up later. It's good that their waypoint marker, the Force, guides them straight to the Queen. No need to do any exploration, planning or discussion. At least we get to see some cool lightsaber fights though, right? These droids aren't very much of a threat though. They decide to go back to Coruscant, plead their case to the Senate. I guess that the negotiations are over, or never took place.
The negotiations never took place.
So avoiding war and trying to negotiate, that's not really a theme or a moral question for the character? Okay, well, we're leaving the planet immediately. Qui-Gon says he senses that they'll kill her if she stays.
My feelings tell me they will destroy you.
We don't know if this is true or a ploy to get her to go. In any case, it seems like a throwaway line anyway, because nothing comes of it. It must have just been his video game journal that told him after he checked his waypoint marker. More killing pointless droids. So much Force. So they land on Tatooine at 30 minutes, and they sense a disturbance in the Force.
Be wary. I sense a disturbance in the Force.
Nothing's happened except the Emperor sent Maul to find them. So they sensed being hunted. Okay. Doesn't have any real emotional weight like this.
There is a great disturbance in the Force. It is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker.
But it's something. At least this film is staying true to being able to sense great users of the Force. And then they run into Anakin, who's super annoying, and Qui-Gon senses nothing. You heard right. This kid is supposedly extremely powerful in the Force, and he creates no ripple in the Force at all. They just felt Maul coming from 17,000 light years away, but they can't sense an ultra-strong Force user 17 centimetres away. Remember when the Emperor could sense how powerful Luke was, not even having met him?
The Force is strong with him.
In any case, they leave, never to see Anakin again. But luckily for the plot, a sandstorm arrives and this annoying little shit randomly bumps into them and offers to take them all in for a hearty meal at his slave mum's house. I'm sure they eat really well as slaves on a desert planet. But seriously, this is such a plot contrivance. Did the Force send a sandstorm to push these guys together at just the right moment when Anakin is happening to be walking by in all of the city? Why does it even need to be done that way? The whole scene on Tatooine leading up to this should have been completely different. What if Qui-Gon senses Anakin has Force potential, and they share a touching moment when Qui-Gon comes for the ship part? Anakin, as a noob Force user, would not really be able to describe the feeling, but he feels something. Maybe Qui-Gon talks about the Force with him. What you feel is something bigger than yourself, something that a few people are strong in. We get that callback to some of the important lessons of the Force in a way that a person might try to describe to someone who needs a father figure and mentor. Maybe there's this really strong moral question Qui-Gon has to face. Does he just leave this poor kid who needs help? Or is the need to save Naboo more urgent? In any case, Qui-Gon breaks himself away and feels bad about it, foreshadowing his later moral dilemma of taking Anakin with him again. Then it makes sense that Anakin follows them because he felt something and wants to know more. A child lost in the storm without a guide, which would metaphorically link to the sandstorm. And when it comes, Anakin is right there to help them because he was following them the entire time. And we've built a connection between him and Qui-Gon immediately. But no, this is where we are. Totally randomly sitting in a slave's hut, listening to the shittiest dialogue ever and the worst acting ever.
And they blow you up. Boom!
Anakin says he can pod race, and Qui-Gon guesses that Anakin has Jedi reflexes because he can pod race.
You must have Jedi reflexes if you race pods.
He can't feel anything from Anakin, but he just takes a guess that he might be Force sensitive. What is this? Has George Lucas actually gone back to rewatch the original trilogy before writing this? He literally just wrote, "There's a disturbance in the Force." Has he forgotten the last few pages of the script he wrote? Then we see a scene where the Emperor and Maul walk along a balcony in plain view of Coruscant. Maul says something strange.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
Does that mean that him and the Emperor have grievances that they need to get revenge for? I guess we'll find out later. Qui-Gon engineers this whole scenario to have Anakin pod race, which is just stupid as a plan. What does Obi-Wan have to say about this? Oh, wait. Obi-Wan's back on the ship and has been the entire time. We're almost an hour into the film and Obi-Wan's been AWOL for half of that on the ship. So I guess his character arc is just non-existent now? Then we get this scene. Qui-Gon talks to Shmi about Anakin. They say he's powerful. They say he's got unique powers. And they say he's probably a Jedi. You know what we haven't seen anything of yet? Anakin's actual ability. Do I have to rewrite this as well? The first rule of filmmaking is show, don't tell. why don't we have a moment of peril where Anakin shows us he's possibly a Jedi? Have his mum trapped underneath a giant power converter or something, and he gets extremely emotionally worked up and pushes it off her using the Force. Qui-Gon sees this and notices how powerful an untrained user he is, which leads to the moral question of if he tries to free Anakin. It can foreshadow his dark powers here as well, because he mustered the strength from being upset rather from the light side as well. That scene would be awesome. I can just imagine the music, the Force theme integrated with a darker tone that foreshadows his future fall. Instead, get a two-shot conversation about how Anakin didn't have a father. That's a pretty weird question to ask if you think about it. Qui-Gon is basically asking if she's single. Is he trying to pick her up? Who cares? What did you expect the answer to be, Qui-Gon? Yoda? The Emperor? She's a slave on Tatooine, in a time where there's hundreds of Jedi. Lineage is not really that important. Or is it? Is that now a theme of the film? It was in the OT because it was an important part of Luke's journey and confrontation with the Force. So you know what? Since we spent precious screen time talking about his dad, I'm writing it down as a potential theme. Or was this just a throwaway line to make him seem like Jesus with an immaculate conception? Well, we're not having a good run on themes so far, so we'll see how we go. At least we get to see young Greedo though. Nice to give me an emotional connection with the cute little Greedo.
Yes, I bet you have.
Listen to that music though. It's so good. The problem is there's no real specific emotion going on behind this. We haven't really had any threat that this little dipshit couldn't make the pod racer work, so is this triumphant? Or is it attached to the fact that Qui-Gon might leave Anakin on the planet? It's just really unclear. This music deserves better themes. We have it playing over the pod racer booting up. Deep. But don't worry, this is what we've been waiting for. Qui-Gon is finally getting some one-on-one time with Anakin. This is it, people. We're about to get this really deep and emotional scene between Qui-Gon and Anakin that explores the Force, where they talk about stars?
Let me clean this cut.
There's so many. Do they all have a system of planets?
Most of them.
Has anyone been to them?
Is this it? Is this the fatherly connection being built between Qui-Gon and Anakin? What about the Force? The kid, as Qui-Gon stated, clearly has Jedi powers. This is in the film. The film is poorly framing Qui-Gon's challenge about whether he saves Anakin or not, right? So Qui-Gon doesn't know if he's going to do it, right? So in the precious moments he has with Anakin, instead of talking to him about the Force, about the feelings that Anakin has, the powers, the premonitions, whatever sage advice you give now might be the difference between whether he grows up good or falls to the dark side. Instead, they talk about some stars. Whatever. So Qui-Gon sends off some blood to Obi-Wan, and he's got the highest level of midichlorians ever. Yes. This scientific test tells everyone that Anakin is special. Yep, you heard that right. The Force is no longer a feeling, the faith that you have, a deep connection with the world around you and others. It is something that you can measure in a blood test. This is literally the opposite of what we learnt in the OT. What we have learnt in the OT has been retconned. Faith is not the key to your power, because why do you need faith when you can simply measure your power? Remember when Luke didn't believe he could pull up the X-Wing on Dagobah? I don't know what Yoda was doing trying to inspire him with words of encouragement, to have faith, to believe in himself. when he could just show Luke a quick readout of his midichlorians. See? Midichlorians you have enough of. Thanks, Yoda. But wait, why don't people believe in Jedis and the Force anymore in A New Hope? Remember this conversation between Vader and the General about hokey religions? This isn't even a religion. It's a literal fact. You can measure it, mate. This scene would have been so much better if Vader didn't choke him, demonstrating his skill with the Force. Instead, he pulls up a small tablet with a readout of his midichlorians, thus proving once and for all the power of the Force to this disbelieving general. And what about Han Solo? He doesn't believe in the Force. Don't worry about the iconic blast mask scene. We'll just do a quick blood test. There you go, proven without a doubt. Remember, the entire point of A New Hope is that you need to give yourself over to faith.
Use the Force, Luke.
He has to take a literal leap of faith to win the day. Well, why? He should just look down at his midichlorian count and make the smart, logical decision. His current Force level was high enough to land the shot, so it was more of a tactical decision, not really one of faith and emotion. Could you imagine the Force theme, one of the best pieces of music ever, playing alongside a cold and emotionless moment? I can. So, Episode 1, A Phantom Menace, says that the Force is no longer a metaphor for religion. It's just something you have, like muscle mass. For us to accept this film, we need to unlearn what we've been told and relearn something else that is emotionally vacuous and has no deeper meaning. Let's just move on. Surely this can't get any worse. Before the pod race, Qui-Gon says this.
Remember, concentrate on the moment. Feel, don't think. Use your instincts.
I will.
May the Force be with you.
You know what Anakin's probably thinking? What is the Force? Nobody's even been told about the Force. Do the slaves read about it in books? Only the audience knows what the Force is. I guess Anakin knew what a lightsaber was.
I saw your laser sword. Only Jedis carry that kind of weapon.
He must have heard all about the Force from the criminals and lowlifes in the Cantina bar. And then this happens. A pod racer gets hit by a bullet and explodes, and the commentators say,
I don't care what universe you're from. That's gotta hurt.
Did they mean star system? Planet? Or is there multiple universes now? I'm learning so much. When Qui-Gon goes to pick up Anakin, he tells Shmi,
Our meeting was not a coincidence. Nothing happens by accident.
that waypoint marker again. And then he tells Anakin that being a Jedi is a hard life.
To become a Jedi is not an easy challenge. And even if you succeed, it's a hard life.
Anakin claims he's always wanted to be a Jedi.
But I want to go. It's what I've always dreamed of doing.
I guess he had that dream where he was a Jedi and freed all those slaves.
I had a dream I was a Jedi. I came back here and freed all the slaves.
So that means he always wanted to do it? Because he had a dream one time? Then Qui-Gon takes away Shmi's son and leaves her to rot on Tatooine as a slave.
Will you be all right?
Qui-Gon gets his ass beat by Maul, and then Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan discuss what to do about the Sith.
What are we going to do about it?
We should be patient.
This throwaway line is really resonating with the core lesson of the movie. What lesson, you might be asking? That one with Obi-Wan, remember? The one where Obi-Wan needs to live in the moment and be patient. We have just had a slight detour where Obi-Wan hasn't been in the film for almost an hour. Oh wait, he didn't even react, so maybe not. The team land on Coruscant, and Anakin goes off with Padme. Jar Jar talks about how the Queen has been really nice, and that she's hot?
Pretty hot.
Is that right? Let me just put the subtitles on.
Pretty hot.
What? Why is Jar Jar getting turned on by the Queen? Is this movie for kids? This is just creepy. Okay, finally, we get to the Jedi Council. We are 90 minutes into the film, and we've had literally 0 lessons from the Force and a deeply disturbing retcon of what we know about the Force. But there he is, Yoda, our guiding mentor from the OT, the one who actually knows about the Force. Please tell us, wise Yoda, what the hell is this movie about? So everyone starts talking about Maul. They suppose it is a Sith.
My only conclusion can be that it was a Sith Lord.
But apparently, there hasn't been a Sith for millennia.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Been gone for what? Hang on. What exactly is a Sith? It's not in the OT at all. This is someone who's fallen to the dark side, right? It's the opposite of a Jedi. You know, someone who subscribes to the light side. So, a Sith is someone who subscribes to the dark side. So, what they're saying is, there hasn't been anyone who's fallen to the dark side in millennia? How long is a millennia? 1,000 years! Holy crap! You're telling me nobody has fallen to the dark side in 1,000 years? How many people are actually in the Galactic Republic? Quick Google. The Star Wars RPG booklet says 100 quadrillion. What? 100 quadrillion? Is that canon? You're telling me in the 100 quadrillion people that have existed in the entire Republic and beyond, like Tatooine, not a single Force-sensitive user has fallen to the dark side in 1,000 years. Okay, I'm just going to throw this into a quick calculator. So I'm just typing this into the standard calculator on Windows, and it won't let me go past 1 quadrillion. Okay, over to the scientific calculator. Apparently there's about 40 generations in 1,000 years. So without taking into consideration population growth, the chances of a Sith emerging is 1 in this many numbers. Obviously, there's plenty of unknown factors like life expectancy of aliens, population growth, and populations of star systems not in the Republic. If anyone wants to have a go at this in the comments, let me know. But whatever the answer is, don't worry, Luke. Anakin, the odds of falling to the dark side are beyond minuscule. There's literally no threat. Even if you're being tempted, it's just not going to happen. You've got a better chance to win the Mega Millions lottery, then go buy another ticket and win it again 2 times in a row. Impossible. Anyway, Qui-Gon says that he's encountered a vergence in the Force.
I've encountered a vergence in the Force.
A cool word, but what? Some form of disturbance in the Force? Please, tell me more. What have you seen within the Force?
A boy. His cells have the highest concentration of midichlorians I have seen in a life form.
Oh, right. It's just the midichlorians. Great. So, Qui-Gon tells the Council that this kid has the highest midichlorians ever, and they all seem annoyed?
You believe it's this boy?
Okay. Doesn't seem like the reaction I'd give if I heard there was the strongest potential Force user ever. But what the hell do I know about the Force? And then Mace Windu says this.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force.
Right. So there's this prophecy. In a world where individual choice is the bedrock of the Force user, there's a prophecy that has a predetermined outcome. We all know that Force users can foresee the future, but there's always an element of choice involved, right? Remember in Return of the Jedi, when the Emperor literally foresees everything.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen. I have foreseen it.
as the Emperor has foreseen.
He still must coax a choice out of Luke. He has to align all the elements onto the chessboard to tempt Luke, because falling to the dark side is a decision that Force users must make. Do they do right or wrong? This is the metaphor of Star Wars, the thing that resonates with everyone, the reason we see ourselves as a hero, someone who must make those hard decisions every day. But now, the world of Star Wars is predetermined by prophecies and the stupid will of the Force. Also, the prophecy says balance to the Force.
The one who will bring balance to the Force.
This 100% means that this kid is the enemy, right? Because the last time I checked, the word balance means equal, right? At the moment, there hasn't been any Sith for 1,000 years, which means the Force is pretty unbalanced towards the light side, right? And then Mace Windu sighs.
Bring him before us, then.
Bloody hell, is the Jedi Council drunk? Qui-Gon just came with news that there's a Sith, the first one in 1,000 years, and they basically dismiss Qui-Gon. And then he says that he's found Space Jesus, and they sigh? Maybe Qui-Gon is the drunk one, and he comes to the council every month with some crazy theory about the will of the Force. But maybe we do find out. In the next scene, we find out that Qui-Gon has been a rogue. He doesn't follow the Jedi Council's code. See?
Do not defy the Council, Master, not again. If you would just follow the code, you would be on the Council.
What code? Please, tell me the code. Give me something to do with the Force. We have had literally nothing except throwaway lines that have retconned the OT. And then Qui-Gon says this.
You still have much to learn, my young apprentice.
You still have much to learn, my young apprentice. And the scene ends. Yep, Qui-Gon says there are so many lessons to learn, but teaches him nothing. Qui-Gon teaches Obi-Wan nothing, us nothing, we learn nothing about what Qui-Gon did, we have no basis for what the code is with the Council, we don't know what Qui-Gon did to defy the code, we don't know what his reasons are, the stakes are, or what the message is for this whole damn movie. Imagine if there was a plot line with Obi-Wan needing to grow. This would be such a pivotal scene, where Qui-Gon shows Obi-Wan a lesson in the Force and backs up his words with actions. But no, we get this vapid, hollow, weak, shallow, emotionless and pointless scene. And then the dumbest thing ever happens. Remember those tests for ESP? Where people would guess a card that they couldn't see. And if they could, they would have some sort of psychic sense. You know, this scene from Ghostbusters.
Concentrate. I want you to tell me what you think it is. Square. Good guess.
This is now what George Lucas suddenly thinks the Force is. A card trick. He must be good with the Force because he can read unseen cards. How about you sense his power? The room is filled to the brim with the top Jedi ever, and they can't even figure out he's a powerful Jedi from the Force? No wonder you guys get your ass whooped by the Emperor and Vader. Those guys are actually in tune with the Force. Both Vader and the Emperor can sense how powerful Luke is from light years away. Why do you even need to do this test anyway? We already checked the midichlorian count, and he has the highest one ever. So he's a Jedi anyway? What the hell is checking his card counting ability got to do with anything? This film is even inconsistent with itself. So afterwards, they check his feelings as a complete afterthought.
How feel you?
They can sense he has fear about his mother, even though he says he's not afraid.
See through you. We can.
Be mindful of your feelings.
Your thoughts dwell on your mother.
This checks out. And this is the first Jedi thing these impotent masters have done so far. Wait. Hang on, are you sure you don't want to run a scientific lie detector test? Well, we wouldn't want you to have to use the Force as Jedi Masters. Anyway, it finally happens. The thing we've all been waiting for. Some actual advice about the Force from Yoda. Oh my god, this has been the biggest blue balls ever. Get ready.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Wow, this is actually something. We get a pathway for someone to fall to the dark side, even though there's been no Sith for 1,000 years. This is still something. I mean, I'll take it. This movie has just begun. Let's spend some time with Anakin where we learn more. Oh wait, we're gone. Go back to Amidala, who says that she's had enough of the bullshit and is going to declare war on the Trade Federation because of the occupation of Naboo.
I've decided to go back to Naboo.
Go back? But Your Majesty, be realistic that they'll force you to sign...
This essentially concludes her arc that began with her saying that she wouldn't take a course of action that leads to war. She's been through this rigmarole of trying to convince the council for 30 minutes, and they just get bogged down in politics and inaction.
It is clear to me now that the Republic no longer functions. I pray...
So she decides it's time to go to war. We'll catch up with her later, because we're back at the council. I can't wait. The council says the Force is strong with him.
The Force is strong with him.
Which they must have concluded after the card trick. Then they say he's not to be trained.
No, he will not be trained.
Why? Because he's too old.
He is too old.
It's against the code of the Jedi. Okay. Why? Remember back in the OT when Yoda was hesitant against training Luke because he was too old?
Yes, too old to begin the training.
I always thought that was because Luke was basically an adult. And as we get older, we become less malleable to new ideas, which is sort of represented in Luke's slower uptake of the Force teachings. There's a massive difference between a 10-year-old and a 20-year-old in regards to this fact. This little idiot hasn't learned anything about anything yet. Do slaves even have school? He probably can't even read. And then, what do they have to say about him being so high on the midichlorian count? Well, nothing. He just won't be trained and he goes off into the world to live his life. Think about this for a second. How the hell are the Jedi Council finding Padawans? Are they doing mandated blood tests at birth? And if the midichlorian counts are high enough, they take the child from the mother? Okay, maybe. If they're doing blood testing, then what about the ones they miss, such as Anakin, who has the highest midichlorian count ever? What exactly is likely to happen if they send such a person off into the world without any guidance? They literally just sensed he had a lot of fear.
Afraid to lose her, I think.
What do they think's going to happen? He gets rejected by the Jedi Council because of something he can't control, his age, and he's full of fear, and he's full of Force potential. Is he suddenly just going to become a light side user? Or is he 100% going to fall into fear and become a dark side user? I mean, there haven't been any Sith for 1,000 years, so I guess the chance is that he's going to be light side, even though the dark side is the easier way to the Force.
Is the dark side stronger?
No. But the easier, more seductive.
What is the philosophy behind this code? Please tell me, because at the moment, it sounds like George Lucas remembered he's too old to train from Empire and shoehorned it in as a reason to create fake tension between Qui-Gon and the Council without actually thinking about why it would be in the code. How is this the Jedi Code? Remember, Yoda still trained Luke in Empire. In this film, the Council are just a short-sighted, rigid, dogmatic, impotent, useless council of idiots with no justification or reasons for their actions. These guys don't represent anything that we've learnt from the Jedi in the OT. They aren't good. They aren't wise. They aren't understanding, empathetic, patient, concerned with others, all the greater impacts on the world. They don't even search their feelings. Come on! They rely on scientific methods to uphold their rigid dogmatic code, which, from what we've heard so far, is utterly stupid and goes against everything we know of the light side of the Force. So some of you will be saying, this is the point. George Lucas wanted to have a council that was so incompetent it creates a breeding ground for the Sith. And to that, I say, he did it. He actually accomplished this perfectly. He made a council so poor it makes me root for the dark side. These guys are absolutely useless. At least Darth Vader and the Emperor were full of passion and used the Force properly. They actually searched their feelings and sensed if someone was powerful. This council deserves to die with this attitude. Man, this blows so hard. I came into this wanting to fall in love with the good in the world again and find new ways to be a better person. Now I want to watch these morons get wiped out. Qui-Gon obviously rejects the dumbest command ever to not train Anakin and says that he'll just train him.
I will train him then.
Council say that Qui-Gon can't take on a second Padawan because he already has one.
An apprentice you have, Qui-Gon. Impossible to take on a second.
The code forbids it.
And the code forbids it. Why? Give me some reasons. Then Qui-Gon says that Obi-Wan has nothing more to learn from him.
There is little more he can learn from me.
I don't need a lie detector test to know that that's true. Qui-Gon's taught him literally nothing this entire film. Imagine if Obi-Wan's character arc was concluding here, that he'd grown and learnt something, and that we all felt like he'd come a long way, that he was ready for the next phase. But no, he's just standing there, being rejected by Qui-Gon after having sat on a ship for an hour. To Obi-Wan's credit, he takes it well.
Obi-Wan is ready.
I am ready to face the trials.
He probably just wants to get away from the old fool. The Council basically dismiss Qui-Gon and tell him to find Maul on Naboo. And then Yoda says,
"May the Force be with you."
Remember this iconic line? It was like good luck from the Star Wars universe. Someone saying, "I have faith in you."
May the Force be with us.
May the Force be with you.
But it literally has no meaning now, given that the Force is an empirical measurement. It would be like saying, "May physics be with you." So stupid. So Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon have this conversation about how Anakin is dangerous, and that's what the Council think.
Boy is dangerous. They all sense it. Why can't you?
Okay. Well, the Council didn't say anything about that. Is that the reason they invoked the code? To stop this dangerous boy from being trained? Okay, that might be a reason. So, just to summarise what happened, the Council used deceptive measures to stonewall a child from being trained because they are scared of who he might become. How is this the light side of the Force? Really? I'm genuinely asking. Someone who has massive potential, who has done nothing wrong, is being rejected by the Council because they are scared of what he might be? Why don't you look after him then? Because you have a fear of one potential outcome? Remember this?
Fear is the path to the dark side.
The Council is acting in negative ways out of fear of uncertainty. Oh my God, this is so terrible. Scenes aren't even congruent with their previous scene. This is such a mess. Can this get any worse? Oh, wait. Qui-Gon gives Anakin a science lesson on midichlorians.
Midichlorians are a microscopic life form that resides within all living cells.
Yep, that's right. Rather than give us a moral lesson on patience, doing the right thing, looking after people, begin his training with something morally important. No, we get the lesson nobody wanted. They're worms that live inside everyone that create waypoint markers.
They live inside me.
They continually speak to us, telling us the will of the Force.
Let's just move on. In the next scene, Obi-Wan apologizes to Qui-Gon for his behavior.
I'm sorry for my behavior, Master. It's not my place to disagree with you about the boy.
You mean this scene? The one where he questions Qui-Gon with legitimate concerns?
The boy is dangerous. They all sense it. Why can't you?
This is laughable. Is this supposed to be drama? The simp Obi-Wan says that he's proud that Qui-Gon believes he can do the trials.
And I am grateful you think I'm ready to take the trials.
Mate, he was just saying that to get Anakin as his apprentice. Qui-Gon just wants to hang around little boy. You're too old for him. We can all agree on this, though.
And you're a much wiser man than I am.
But wait a second. He's a much wiser man than you are? A few seconds ago, Qui-Gon said this to Obi-Wan.
You still have much to learn, my young apprentice.
Then 4 minutes later, he says this.
There is little more he can learn from me.
Then 4 minutes later, he says this.
And you're a much wiser man than I am.
Those are 3 completely different judgments within 8 minutes of screen time. And no real time in the world has passed, and Obi-Wan hasn't done anything new. So what is it? Does he have a lot to learn? Is he ready to be a Jedi? Or is he wiser than Qui-Gon? Is Qui-Gon lying to the Jedi Council to get a new Padawan? But then, is he lying to Obi-Wan here then? Or here? What is it? This makes negative sense. These aren't even real characters. They're like cardboard cutouts of approximations of what characters should look like in scenes that give the impression that there's actual character drama and development. But there's no substance to them at all. There's no real character there. Stuff is just being said that sounds good, but it makes no sense to anybody. Seriously, listen to this argument that Obi-Wan had with Qui-Gon a few minutes prior.
Do not defy the Council, Master, not again.
I shall do what I must, Obi-Wan.
Why does he apologise for this argument here, but not this one? They happen within a literal few minutes of each other. Why is one an insult and the other just raising legitimate concerns? And then Qui-Gon concedes that Obi-Wan is wiser than he.
And you're a much wiser man than I am.
So does that mean he's going to follow Obi-Wan's advice? Well, he doesn't. So it's literally and emotionally meaningless. What even is happening? Wait. They brought Anakin to Naboo? What? They're going to war. Do they not have foster care in the Republic? He shouldn't be here. There's no reason he should be here. Unless it's to shoehorn in a dumb scene of him blowing up a space station.
Spinning, that's a good trick.
The Emperor is surprised by how aggressive Amidala is being.
This is an unexpected move for her. It's too aggressive.
So he tells Maul to be mindful and wait for them to make the first move.
Be mindful. Let them make the first move.
That's actually good advice the Emperor is giving. He's such a good Force user. May the Force be with you, Palpatine. Look at this amazing mentorship.
Find cover!
Yep, once the fighting has begun, just hide in a war zone. This is such bad writing. Look, he almost gets shot in the head. Why is he here? Jar Jar is a general?
Steady.
They gave Jar Jar, the mentally retarded Gungan who keeps bumping into things and whacking himself, a command in the most important battle in the history of their planet. They literally were just going to send him to prison. This moment sums up the entire film. The worst ideas all combined in the worst way possible. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the fight between Maul, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I remember seeing this for the first time and thinking it was so cool. Listen to that epic music. This is so epic, right? The flipping and the jumping, and then there's two sides of the lightsaber, so he's blocking two attacks at once. Oh my god, so cool. I've only got one question. What is the emotion in this sequence? Seriously, this is the light side versus the dark side in the ultimate confrontation, isn't it? Although it really isn't. All we know is that there haven't really been any Sith for a millennia. So what is this fight telling us? Remember when we saw this lightsaber fight with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader? This just followed a lesson about the light and dark side of the Force given to Luke and the audience, and this scene showed us a representation of that struggle. We saw the strength of the dark side, and most importantly, we saw a lesson from Obi-Wan about giving yourself up to your faith and how the Force is greater than your physical body. This scene has no emotional weight at all. We already know the dark and the light side and that battle they have. We saw 3 movies of it. So what's new? Is there a deep emotional battle going on? Nope. None of the characters have any motivation other than Maul equals bad. Maul has no depth, no purpose, and no character. Just like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. It's 3 cardboard cutouts fighting in the most overblown scene ever. It's like a child holding 3 toys and bouncing them around the room because he thought it would be cool. John Williams is working overtime to add something to the scene with the music, but there's just nothing there at all. Don't believe me? Answer this question then. What is the point of Qui-Gon dying? Seriously, what's the point? I'm going to lay out 3 alternatives and tell me what would be the difference to the following films if any of these were interchanged. Number 1, Qui-Gon dies to Maul and Obi-Wan trains Anakin. Number 2, Qui-Gon dies of old age and Obi-Wan trains Anakin. Number 3, Qui-Gon didn't exist at all and Obi-Wan just trains Anakin straight away. What would change in all of the following films at all between the 3 options? The answer is nothing. Nothing would change, which means this scene has no point whatsoever. This whole scene has no point to the larger narrative, no emotional point, and no moral lesson either. Let's look at how the events play out. They fight, and fight. Then Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan get separated by the force fields. Qui-Gon prays, and then he fights again and dies. And then Obi-Wan gets mad and beats Maul because of vengeance, right? So what is this scene saying as a moral lesson about the Force? If you get mad, you'll defeat your enemies? Well, that must be it. The moral lesson is succumb to your emotions and you'll defeat your enemies. You know, that thing that leads to the dark side? That thing that the Emperor was trying to get Luke to do? So it must mean that Obi-Wan has a new fear of falling to the dark side. Nope, nothing. It's just the right thing to do in this instance. This goes against everything we have learnt about the Force, the light side and the dark side. Yoda literally says this in the movie.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Obi-Wan looks pretty angry here, so where's the leading to the suffering? It must be the audience who are suffering, watching this dribble. Then we get this.
But agree with your taking this boy as your Padawan learner? I do not. Grave danger I fear in his training.
What?
Fear leads to anger. Fear leads to anger.
What have you done to Yoda? Yoda's now full of fear? Is he trying to overcome the fear? Is there a lesson in here? Or he's just scared? He's just full of fear. Yoda has schizophrenia now. He has wisdom, and then he goes against that wisdom in the next scene. Look, it happens in this scene as well. He says one thing, and then by the end of the scene, it's something completely different.
But agree with your taking this boy as your Padawan learner? I do not. Your apprentice, Skywalker, will be.
Can this get any worse? So we watch Qui-Gon's body get burnt. I don't think George Lucas knows how bad burning flesh smells. Clearly, because everyone is just standing there. And then this happens.
There's no doubt the mysterious warrior was a Sith.
Always two there are. No more, no less. A master and an apprentice.
What? Why? Why are there only ever two Sith? What do you mean there's only ever two? Do you mean because there were two in the OT? That means they're only able to be two now? Because that sounds cool? But why would that be the case?
That's not how the Force works.
A person makes decisions whether to do the right thing or the wrong thing, and that dictates if they fall to the dark side. That's what was said here.
Yes, Jedi strength flows from the Force. But beware of the dark side. Anger, fear, aggression. The dark side of the Force are they. Easily they flow, quick to join you in a fight. If once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will, as it did Obi-Wan.
Think about this for a second. If this weird, arbitrary rule existed, that if there was already two Sith, then it means that a third person could just do horrific shit and they would not be able to fall to the dark side. Don't worry, I can just burn this village alive because there's already two Sith. I'm immune from falling to the dark side. This makes literally no sense and undoes everything we know about the Force. This film has completely undone the entire OT and retconned every single thing we know about the Force. Remember when I said this film wasn't bad? I haven't seen this movie for a long time. I'm actually pretty excited about going through the prequels again, because I remember it being not that bad. It's not bad. It's absolutely horrendous. Just to recap, the Force is no longer a religion. It's worms inside of people. You don't have to believe in it, because it's just a fact. There aren't really any moral lessons anymore, because this isn't a parable anymore. So scratch out these, as nothing is explored in this film. Oh wait, we did have this one about Amidala, about her needing to go to war. Remember, she won't follow a course of action that leads to
I will
war.
not condone a course of action that will lead us to war. Decided to go back to Naboo. I will sign no treaty, Senator.
So then she needs to learn to go to war? So the lessons are, if you're mad, draw upon your emotions to win. And sometimes you need to go to war. Wow, these are so wholesome and congruent with the OT. There's no individual choice because the worms create waypoint markers for us all. And there are now prophecies, so don't worry about having to make tough decisions or having any resonance with the real world. You don't really have any agency anyway, because you can't fall to the dark side anymore. There's only ever two Sith for no reason, and the chances of falling to the dark side is beyond negligible. Remember all those great lessons we learnt in the OT? Well, you learnt wrong, bitch. We learnt that the Force is about faith, and that the more we have of it, the stronger we become. The Force is a measurable scientific fact. It doesn't care about your faith or the strength of your character. Decisions about your actions dictates whether you are going down the pathway of the light or the dark. Decisions are actually decided by the will of the Force, which acts like a waypoint marker. Prophecies are locked in and individual choice plays little role. You can't even fall to the dark side if there are two Sith. This is now mandated. Feelings are the center of the Force. We see this represented once in The Phantom Menace as an afterthought when they are testing Anakin with scientific tests. Great Force users can sense tremendous disturbances. This is tenuous at best. The Jedi feel more coming, but every Jedi in the whole film fails to see the Force right in front of them. We know that you defeat evil with love, not with anger, hatred, or dark side traits. Maul is defeated by Obi-Wan getting angry. He doesn't have any issues with the dark side. Is there even a light and dark side anymore at all? Well, this just sucks. This movie should have been amazing. A lot of defenders of the prequels say, well, it's just not what you expected. Doesn't mean it's bad. And that statement by itself is not untrue. There were lots of people who went into the prequels with tons of expectational baggage. But even if you didn't really have any specific expectations, and you were like me, you just wanted to see some Star Wars, you only really had one expectation, that these movies would build on the OT. You know, add something to it, tell a new little story, add a bit more to the universe, tell us some moral stories with the Force. But The Phantom Menace did the opposite. It retconned the Force in the OT. It went back and deleted all the stuff that made Star Wars great. All the lessons we learnt were undermined, undone, rewritten and reframed. What we were told about the light and dark side doesn't hold up anymore, and the champions don't follow the rules that they told us. Seriously, Yoda is a completely different person. He gives us a lesson about fear, and then in the following scene tells us he's succumbing to fear. This is the equivalent of a teacher warning you about how awful smoking is while lighting up a cigarette in front of you. The Jedi Council, the ones who are supposed to represent the goodness in the universe, use deceptive tactics, follow dogmatic rules for no reason, and fall prey to fear. I know George Lucas was trying to get the audience to see how the Council failed to hold its power, but there's literally nothing light side about these guys at all. They're a bunch of hypocrites. Arrgh. This is just heartbreaking, because underneath this all, there's some really strong thematic potential. But this is just The Phantom Menace. We all know it's the worst of the prequels, right? There's still the other ones to go in the next parts. I'm hoping George Lucas salvages this sinking ship. See you next time.